Hello and welcome to Eorzean News. I'd like to first start off with an announcement. As the letter from the producer live was announced for May 23rd, I'll be streaming the letter myself and discussing it with anyone who'd like to watch it with me. Everyone is more than welcome to come and tune in. Now on to our main news. Yoshi-P has written us the first letter from the producer in over 3.5 years. In this letter, Yoshi-P touches on two major topics that have been hotly debated and criticized for the past few weeks. Let's jump straight in. Our first topic is why a new healer was not added with Shadowbringers. It reads, prior to the Tokyo Fan Festival, many of you anticipated that we would be announcing the addition of a new healer job. I suspect this was encouraged by the fact that we had just revealed Gunbreaker, a new tank job. When we debuted Dancer as a physical range DPS job, there were many who welcomed the news, but others who wondered why no healer had been added. After internal discussion about how to balance the game as a whole, we determined that we should not add a new healer with this expansion. There were three key factors which informed this decision. 1. Only 2 jobs could be added with Shadowbringers. The release of a new expansion is invariably accompanied by the raising of the level cap, which means that in addition to adding new jobs, we need to add new actions for existing jobs, as well as review and rebalance current actions. With the exception of the Blue Mage Limited job, there are 15 jobs, 17 with the addition of Gunbreaker and Dancer. While the development team and myself deliberated prioritizing the addition of new jobs, after considering our update release schedule, we concluded that 2 new jobs was our limit. Therefore, we had to pick certain roles over others. 2. Only 2 physical range DPS jobs are currently implemented. As of Stormblood, there are 3 tank, 3 healer, 4 melee DPS, 3 magical range DPS, and 2 physical range DPS jobs. We believe that there is value in adding another physical range DPS to improve the balance of available roles, and so we decided to use one of our 2 new jobs to fill this need. 3. The present balance between tanks and healers. Since we currently have 4 melee DPS jobs, we decided to hold off on developing another and instead added a new tank. Tanks in Final Fantasy XIV are often utilized in either a main tank or an off-tank role. However, we currently have an odd number of tank jobs, and we felt it would be easier to balance them moving forward if we had an even number of tanks, which is why we went with Gunbreaker in the end. Moreover, ever since we added Astrologian with Heavensward, we have had considerable difficulty in balancing it along with White Mage and Scholar. Rather than exacerbate a complex situation by adding a 4th healer to the mix, we decided to instead prioritize balancing the 3 existing healer jobs at this time. That said, we do understand there is a strong desire for an additional healer, so we will bear this in mind when designing new jobs in the future. While I was disappointed that there was no healer announced, I do appreciate the points Yoshi-P has given us as to why no new healer is present. I think it's great that we are getting a 3rd range DPS, but I hope that we will see a good balancing between the 3, as Machinist isn't in the best place right now. I do worry that Dancer will become the priority over Machinist in this balancing act, but it's something we'll have to look at further once the expansion comes out. I am glad there's an emphasis on balancing the current healer jobs, and I look forward to seeing what new changes are in store. The second topic is regarding the gender of Viera and Hrothgar. It reads, as you know, in Shadowbringers we will be introducing 2 new playable races, the Viera and the Hrothgar. Hrothgar will be male only, and Viera will be female only, a decision which has prompted a variety of feedback from each region. I'd like to elaborate on why we decided to proceed in this fashion. 1. The cost of developing a new playable race. In a fan festival keynote speech, I stated that this will likely be the last time we add new playable races to Final Fantasy XIV. Put it simply, a tremendous amount of time and resources are required to develop one. I'm sure you all understand that a new race will require new faces, hairstyles, bodies, and other assets. In addition to this, they need to be capable of equipping all existing items. This alone requires massive commitment of resources. Each race has a unique frame and body type, and so each piece of visible equipment needs to be carefully adjusted to display properly on Hrothgar and Viera models. A cursory search will show that Final Fantasy XIV has around 10,000 equipable items already implemented, all of which must be manually modified by our designers. This is an immediate and unavoidable development cost incurred when adding a new race. The addition of new playable races will impact more than the development cost of the items added in 5.1 and subsequent updates. Not only will we be transitioning from 12 variations, 6 races, 2 genders each, to 14, but we will also need to commit more resources to the development of new emotes. While Final Fantasy XIV will continue to strive to maintain a regular 3.5 month major update cycle, we must also ensure that sufficient time is secured for the meticulous development of new content. This is a complex problem that can't be simply solved by throwing more money or people at it, as it impacts both debugging and quality assurance. In summary, these are the circumstances which informed my previous statement that this is likely to be the last time we add new playable races, as at this point in time it is difficult to see us maintaining our patch update schedule if we have to account for more than 7 races and 2 genders, technically 6 races with 2 genders, and 2 races with a single gender, but this is the functional equivalent. 2. A significant number of players have been requesting playable Viera. Since this may be the last time we add new races, we spent a long time deliberating which race would be the best addition. Fans worldwide have shown an overwhelming desire for Final Fantasy XII's Viera, and we have long been aware of this fact. In fact, we considered adding Viera back in Heavensward, but eventually decided that since that was Final Fantasy XIV's first expansion, we should instead add an all-new original race, the Aura. If we were to add yet another race, rather than the Viera, we anticipated that many fans would be disappointed, and so we decided to try and satisfy their request in this expansion. The desire to please our fans is the primary reason behind this decision. 3. Providing a more beastly variety for Final Fantasy XIV character creation and world building. After seeing the positive reception of the Lupin characters we introduced in Stormblood, we concluded that, for the long-term health of Final Fantasy XIV, it was important to implement a greater variety of character types beyond the traditionally beautiful in the future expansion. In truth, we had considered adding more beastly characters long before, and since this was possibly our last chance to do so, we decided that we should, much like we did with the Viera, in the interest of expanding the lore and the choices available to players. Character creation is about providing players with options, and while there's no telling how many people will utilize these options, we also believe that there is value simply in having them exist, and empowering people to fill the world with greater variety. Although these second and third points are in conflict, we nevertheless felt that it was in the best interest of our players to try and satisfy both demands. We understood that some players would be upset if they were unable to use their preferred gender, but even so, after much internal discussion, we decided this approach was the best way to improve the overall game experience. We could have decided to implement only male and female Viera or only male and female Hrothgar. Instead, we went with an approach intended to expand the possibilities in multiple ways. As you play through Shadowbringers, you'll learn that both male Viera and female Hrothgar exist. While you won't meet any in person, if we developers can find a way to address the various problems which are preventing us from implementing them, then perhaps someday you'll be able to see them for yourself. I want to be clear that this does not mean it will happen eventually, and that I cannot make any promises at this time. I hope you'll understand and bear with us. Addendum on adding younger looking playable characters. Among some of the feedback we received were requests for playable characters that resembled young boys and girls. Unfortunately, this was one request we cannot consider for ethical reasons. With each passing year, the debate surrounding moral and ethical issues in games grows more intense, and we do not want to present children in battle or in pain, or posing as characters sexually and taking screenshots and so forth would be expressly forbidden. In any event, regardless of what our players did or did not intend to do, the fact remains that if a review board were to evaluate such content and determine it were unacceptable, we would be forced to suspend Final Fantasy XIV service. We ask that you keep these factors in mind as we strive to abide by the changing standards of the times. While I was disappointed we would not be seeing bunny boys in the expansion, I have to say I really like how the Hrothgar look. I can sympathize with the anger felt towards the devs for gender locking these two races, but I feel the team working on Final Fantasy XIV are and will continue to work hard on this game. There is still hope that the gender locking will be removed though, even if Yoshi-P can't promise anything right now. We just have to continue to show our faith in the dev team and keep supporting them in the best ways we can. I'd love to see male Viera and female Hrothgar make appearances in future expansions, but for now, I'm happy with what we're receiving in the current expansion. It was an interesting addendum that Yoshi-P added at the end there. I did not realize people had been requesting younger-looking playable characters. I suppose when a younger-looking model is featured in the game, people start to want to be able to use them for themselves. I do stand by Yoshi-P's stance on it though. There definitely are moral and ethical issues when portraying children in games like Final Fantasy, and if it can be avoided, then it's for the best. The last part in this letter is probably the one that will bring a lot of hype to the community for the expansion. Yoshi-P leaves us with this. The development team is hard at work putting together finishing touches on what we hope will be the greatest expansion yet. Slowly but surely, we're preparing for the day that you will finally be able to play as Viera and Hrothgar. Those new adventures and more are 2 months away, but until then, please hold tight. Before I sign off, I thought I'd leave you with a taste of what I personally consider to be the strongest Hrothgar and Viera, and no, this is not an invitation for debate. As you may remember from the Tokyo Fan Festival keynote, I mentioned that due to special design of Hrothgar and Viera heads, equipped headgear would not be displayed. Glasses and so forth would not display either at first. But after seeing how many people called for us to do something, anything, to address this after the announcement, the character team took it upon themselves to use their spare moments to make it possible without telling me. More than 540 items were carefully modified by our designers so that all would display correctly with our new face models / salute. Every day, the Final Fantasy XIV development team strives to make the impossible possible. Together, we've taken another step forward and surmounted yet another hurdle we once considered impossible. We hope you'll continue to support us as you experience everything the world of Final Fantasy XIV has to offer. I absolutely love the look of the glasses on the Hrothgar and Viera. I'm so excited to see what other pieces of headgear will be usable. My personal hope is that I can use my flower crown on Viera. If not, I'll definitely look forward to using it in the future. I appreciate the hard work the team is putting into this game, especially in their free time. It goes to show how much the dev team really loves this game and wants to give their fans what they want to see in the game. I greatly appreciate the letter from Yoshi-P to help clear up reasonings as to why we don't see a new healing class and gender-locked races. I feel like it'll help calm the debate people were having, and hopefully people will realize how much work the dev team is putting into this game. What are your thoughts on the letter? What headpieces are you most looking forward to seeing on Viera and Hrothgar? Let me know in the comments below. That's all for the Eorzean news in this video. I'll see you in the next one.